Okay, we're going to practice measuring to the nearest half inch. And remember, you're just looking at this like the number lines we created. Here is your 0, and then here it goes to 6. Just like number lines our whole lives, we need to go ahead and put the whole numbers on them. So right where they have the markings, do you see how a ruler looks just like a number line? You start it at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're measuring to the nearest half inch. So we have to go halfway in between the whole numbers. And we've been doing that. Halfway looks right about there. Halfway right about there. Halfway right about there. 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 There, and we can double check on this line. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yep, I'm breaking all of these 1 inches into 2 pieces, so I'm breaking them in half. Now, if you look, I have my card, this yellow piece of paper that I put at the top, and the first thing that I want you to notice, again, the edge is lined right up with the 0. It's important when you're measuring to line up on the very end of your ruler, okay? Don't start at the 1, you start at 0. They don't have 0 labeled, but you know that's where what comes before the 1. The next thing you do is you just look at the whole numbers. Let's see, which whole number does it end in between? Well, it ends in between the 3 and the 4. Okay, and it's almost like time where you're like, well, it comes after the 3 but before the 4. Well, no matter what, if I'm going to measure it to the nearest half inch, it's going to be 3 and something. Okay, so now I have to figure out what that 3 and something is. We've got 3 hops. These are the whole number hops. 1, 2, 3. And now we have to decide, well, this is where it ends. So we have to decide, this is the edge of my paper. Is that closer to my 3.5 mark right there? Or is it closer to my 4? That blue line, which is it closer to? Well, when you look, it looks a little bit closer to the 4. So instead of being 3.5 inches, guess what it's going to be? I'm measuring to the nearest half inch, and it's going to be 4 inches. Okay? It can be confusing for kids that they think if I'm measuring to the nearest half inch, my answer has to end in a half. But no, when you're measuring to the nearest half inch, your answer could be 0, 1/2 inch, 1, 1.5 inches, 2, 2.5 inches, 3, 3.5 inches, 4, 4.5 inches. I could go on and on and on because I'm looking at the half-inch jumps on this number line. Okay, there's a half, 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 there's a half. Okay, which half is it closer to, the 3.5 or the 4? It's pretty close to the 4. So when I measure my yellow Post-it, it is 4 inches long when I measure it to the nearest half inch.